Christmas time is all about traditions, and what could be more traditional than a classic Hollywood movie? The holiday season is a time when you see friends and family you may not see the rest of the year. Revisiting old friends and classic movies, from the stars to the bit players, is kind of the same. And just like at the company holiday party or your auntie after too much eggnog, folks in these films aren't always doing what you expect, but boy, is it fun. Bob Hope might sing. Rogers might not dance. My list was tough to make, as in the golden era, they didn't make as many holiday pictures as we see these days. Most of these films weren't even released at the holidays, but they have endured. It's not for nothing that most of my picks have had remakes. Making my list, I ruled out the almosts that were all pretty well known anyway. Things like Meet Me in St. Louis that had one great Christmas scene, but that song, iconic. The Thin Man, it had a Christmas scene. Even Lady and the Tramp opens and closes on Christmas in a vignette inspired by Walt Disney's gift to Lillian. You can look it up. Anyway, let's get on with the show. Number 7, The Bishop's Wife, 1947. Cary Grant, Loretta Young, David Niven. The supporting cast included Monty Woolley and one of my favorites, Elsa Lanchester. In this one, it is a romantic comedy. A bishop prays for help with funding his new cathedral, and an angel arrives, Cary Grant, who actually works to rebuild their family and teach them life lessons. It sounds a little twee, but Cary Grant carries it. Can't think of another way to put that. It got 5 Oscar nods, including Best Picture, Best Director. It won for sound recording. If the plot sounds a little familiar, it was remade as The Preacher's Wife with Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston. Number 6, The Lemon Drop Kid from 1951, starring Bob Hope. You'll see also in the cast William Frawley, aka Fred Mertz, Jane Darwell, who you might remember from Grapes of Wrath or Mary Poppins. Even Tor Johnson from the Ed Wood stable shows up. The director was Sidney Landfield, and he's best known for Basil Rathbone's Hound of the Baskervilles, but he made a lot of studio tripe with great titles like Skirts Ahoy and Sing Baby Sing. I'm trying to find copies of those. I would love to see them. Anyway, Bob Hope plays a racetrack con. He goes undercover as a Salvation Army Santa. Shenanigans ensue. If you are thinking about Guys and Dolls right now, you're not far wrong. This is also based on a Damon Runyon story, who wrote the stories that the classic Guys and Dolls was inspired by. This film is also a standout because it introduced the classic carol Silver Bells, one of my favorites. Number 5, Bachelor Mother from 1939, starring Ginger Rogers and David Niven again. It also has in the cast E. E. Clive, who made almost 100 movies between 1932 and 1940 when he passed, including Bride of Frankenstein, The Invisible Man. You would know his face. You also can see Frank Albertson, who appeared in everything from It's a Wonderful Life to Psycho. That's range. The movie was edited by Robert Weiss long before his directing career and has a classic Hollywood Golden Age title card, Miss Rogers' Gowns by Irene. Anyway, Ginger plays Polly Parrish. She works as Christmas help at a department store, ends up with a baby she picks up on the steps of an orphanage, and shenanigans ensue. It's interesting in that it has very early product placement. One of the first times in film, there is a prominent Donald Duck wind-up toy in the entire first scene. It's no surprise RKO, who released this movie, also was releasing the Disney movies at the time, so they got a cut. This movie does not have any remakes I could find, but it itself was a remake of an earlier Hungarian film. Number 4, It Happened on Fifth Avenue, 1947. Big ensemble cast of mostly B-list stars, Gail Storm, Don DeFore, Victor Moore, but you'll recognize Edward Brophy, or at least his voice. He was Timothy Mouse in Dumbo, and Alan Hale Jr., Skipper, in Gilligan's Island, and the amazing Charles Lane, who worked for 65 years in Hollywood from 1930 to 1995. He played almost 400 roles. He lived long enough that he got to be in remakes of his own films. Anyway, when you know him, you'll see him, or vice versa. Anyway, directed by Roy Del Ruth, he was one of those unsung career studio directors. He worked with one studio his whole career. Whatever they gave him, he did it. He worked with Max Sennett in silent films in 1915, all the way through to his last picture, The Alligator People from 1959. That was so bad, it was the bottom half of a double bill with The Return of the Fly. But Roy Del Ruth was a company man and always kept working. Anyway, the plot of this one, It Happened on Fifth Avenue. A vagrant, a delightful vagrant like they all are in Hollywood, hides out in a mansion while the family is wintering elsewhere, and shenanigans ensue. You'll notice a motif here with these plots. The movie isn't as well known as some of the others on my list. but it does have ties to some of the other classics. It was almost directed by Frank Capra, who opted instead for It's a Wonderful Life. Probably a good call. This movie also got an Oscar nomination for Best Story, but it lost to Miracle on 34th Street. Fair. There was a TV adaptation of this in the 50s. No film remakes except in India. They filmed it twice in Hindi. I'm not sure what the appeal is, but they must love it. At any rate, I love it too, but the original. Number three, Miracle on 34th Street, 1947, with Maureen O'Hara, John Payne, and Natalie Wood. Edmund Gwynn appears as Santa Claus, or is he? And William Frawley shows up again because he's a character actor, and that's what they do. The director was George Seaton, who worked with everybody from the Marx Brothers all the way up to the Airport film in 1970. And another one I'm saving up for our top 7 bad movies we love part 2 is in his catalog. This movie is a holiday twofer. You also get the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, because the plot follows boss lady Maureen O'Hara, who works at Macy's and hires a man to play Santa, who believes he really is. Shenanigans ensue. This movie is universally beloved. It's been colorized. It's been satirized. It got 3 Oscars, one for Edmund Gwynn, a couple for the writers. Everyone loved it except the Catholic Film Board, which gave it a bad rating because O'Hara played a divorcee. Shocking. Anyway, this movie, of course, has had a lot of remakes, one in 1994 in film and 3 TV movie versions over the years as well. Number 2, Christmas in Connecticut from 1945 with Barbara Stanwyck, Dennis Morgan, and Charles Coburn. In the supporting cast is the wonderful Sidney Greenstreet, Cuddles Sakal, and Una O'Connor, who we talk about all the time, especially if you're Amber, who is not appearing in a horror film this time. This time, the gowns for Barbara Stanwyck are by Edith Head, special title card. The plot. So Barbara Stanwyck plays a sort of Martha Stewart type. She's supposed to be able to cook and clean and sew and be this perfect housewife. She can't do any of those things. A returning war hero wants to meet her at her fictitious Connecticut farm. Shenanigans ensue. There was a TV remake with Dyan Cannon in 1992. It is only notable because it was Arnold Schwarzenegger's one and only directorial attempt. The less said, the better. So before we get to number 1, I've got some runners-up. A Christmas Carol. Any version. Your favorite. I'm not going to pick one because everybody has their own particular favorite. We've even talked about Muppet Christmas Carol here on the podcast. One of my favorites. I've got a couple. I won't tip my hand. And other runners-up, Remember the Night from 1940, written by Preston Sturges. This one is not as much of a comedy as most of the ones I picked are, but it's notable because it was the first pairing of Barbara Stanwyck and Fred MacMurray before the classic Double Indemnity a couple years later. And then in the Seen to be Believed category, something called Three Godfathers from 1948. It's a John Ford film. It stars John Wayne. It's a remake of something a silent called Hell's Heroes. It is basically the Three Wise Men story retold as a Technicolor Western. So John Wayne and his 2 buddies are out riding the range and rustling cattle and whatnot, and run across a woman who is giving birth, and then she dies, and they adopt a little baby, and then they have to follow a star. And anyway, unbelievable holiday film. Anyway, which leads me up to my number 1 holiday film, Holiday Inn from 1942 with Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire. Now, for me, the only thing better than a holiday movie is an all the holidays movie. This one concerns song and dance men. One wants to retire to his farm. Romance and shenanigans ensue. But the best part is that we get a number for almost every holiday there is, a big musical number. There is a problematic one in blackface for Lincoln's birthday, but you can fast forward that if you want. But it builds up to the Christmas number and that song. Yes, White Christmas, one of the most popular Christmas songs of all time, debuted in this film, won the Oscar. The film also got nominations for score and story. There's also the twofer in this one in that we have another classic holiday song, Happy Holiday, as it's correctly called, though everybody sings it Happy Holidays. Fair. There was a near remake of this film a few years later, 1954, in color, White Christmas. Many, many people love this film. I think it is inferior to Holiday Inn. You can fight me on that if you want. End up on my naughty list. Main reason I think it's inferior, Danny Kaye is not Fred Astaire, and we'll just leave it at that. There were no remakes of this film after White Christmas, but there was a Broadway version ring my jingle bells for Broadway. Everybody take a drink of spiked eggnog. Anyway, I hope you will pick a couple of these movies to watch this season and maybe start a new tradition of your own. That's my gift to you. Happy holidays. And whatever you celebrate, remember to do it with physical media because physical media is better.